we'll make a start. So, first of all, thanks everybody for joining us today. I know it's Thursday, which is a lot like a Friday because it's the Easter long weekend and we all want to get away and do things and have a nice, great long weekend. So we really, really appreciate you taking your time to spend another hour with us on just a little bit of a recap eventually on what we've done the last couple of days. And we've already answered a few questions there, but we'll come back onto that. But based on a little bit of the conversation that we had on a couple of questions yesterday, I thought rather than just fill this up with an hour of Q&A, I thought we might actually do a workshop that I've done a number of times over the last few months now, because I've found that my clients find it fairly valuable that when you're getting into business for the first time, and through many of them, that there's a number of things that just aren't necessarily thought of. So I put this little bit of a workshop together. So this workshop is all about launching a small business, and basically launching a small business from the perspective of never having done it before to a certain degree. So the idea behind this is about being able to be found, be seen and be heard, so that your customers actually end up eventually buying from you. So it's all about the basics of brand and profile to start and launch a business, and fundamentally get the foundations right from the very word go. So as a bit of an introduction and overview to launching a small business, what I notice with a lot of businesses, and it's not just even small businesses miss opportunities. They miss opportunities to market their business, promote their business, and they miss these business opportunities every single day, and they continue to do it, even if they're told occasionally that they're missing those opportunities. So this is a very brief session. It's basically an overview of the things that all businesses need. Many of them are must-haves. There's absolutely no denying it. If the idea or the objective is to build a real business, you have to at some point do this. So with that in mind, the idea is fundamentally to build and to maximize the opportunities to grow the business, but importantly to create awareness, because if people don't know who you are, don't know you exist, then they're not going to buy. And the biggest challenge that I think most businesses have every day of the week is that 99% of people don't know that your business exists. So they don't know your business exists, they're simply not going to buy from you. So it really is all about, as I said earlier, the objective in the first place is about being found, being seen, being heard, but also being contactable. And I actually added this one in today because I was talking to one of my clients today that in one of my mentoring calls, and we had a real drama in getting in touch with each other. First of all, she wasn't answering my phone, and then we went to an online call and eventually did, but the internet was atrocious. And I said, look, whereabouts are you? And she's out in the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast somewhere. And she said, I have absolutely got no phone reception out here ever. And the internet is bad at the best of times. So generally I have no internet. Now, I guess a little bit of common sense here is going to tell you that if you're running a business, you need to have phone contact, you need to have a phone system that works, and you need to have internet. That's the way business is done these days. So if you don't, you need to figure out a way of how to change that, whether it's a different phone provider or a different internet provider, or, you get a booster or something. But businesses can't connect or communicate with people these days if they don't have a phone line. So if that's the case, then they're not going to buy from you. So a little bit on the technology side of things. So make sure that works. If you've got a phone that's no good, maybe you need to invest in a newer phone, right? It's not everything, but you need to find ways of being able to connect with people and communicate with them. If they want to buy, they're going to want answers. They want to have answers now. So I actually left this slide in. I wasn't going to, but I thought I'll very, very quickly tell you a little bit about my background. I've been in business for over 35 years and with various businesses that I own. If you sort of go anti-clockwise from that picture of a table on the top left there, that was my very first attempt at being in business. When I was 18, I started making coffee tables and I sold them down at a local market. That lasted one weekend. I sold half of them and never did it again, and my mum took the rest of them. So, it brought about something to me that made me realise that anybody can sell something once, but to sell it regularly and to turn it into a business is a different thing altogether. From there, the bottom left-hand picture is a picture of me in my retail picture framing business that I owned for about 8 years back in the mid-80s. I then was one of the very early franchisees with a company called Bartercard. I had a Bartercard franchise in Brisbane. I was one of the originals and one of the largest franchises for 22 years there, and we sold back in 2015. I went on to do some business training through a platform that I had called My Business Now. And then we made the move to the Sunshine Coast, and everything changed when COVID all of a sudden entered. So that's where we sort of are now, right now, in the role that I'm doing right now. So the first part about it, and I actually added this in today because of the question we had yesterday, is that it's really important to choose the right name. And just to give you a bit of a heads up for that, of how that works, and I don't mean the pun with heads up with, the barbershop sign there, but it needs to be as easy as it possibly can to find a business. You need to make the name simple. You need to also try to do wherever possible, and it's not the only solution, because say, there are examples, obviously, of things like Meta, the new Facebook, Instagram company name that means nothing except to them, I guess. Maybe there's explanation of it. But, it helps if the business you are doing, the thing you do, connects with the name that you have. So think about that. Think about the keywords you use. Think about the way that people will search for you. Think about what it is you do, and make your business in your name searchable and findable. So when you also then get to the domain aspect of it and the email aspect, if wherever possible, make the domain the name of the business or the business thing of what you do. If you can't do that because you're really keen on this creative, unusual name that has nothing to do with anything, then simply get a second domain. And I'll talk to you a little bit down the track. And as I also very briefly mentioned yesterday, consider the idea behind trademarking it, because if you really like the idea of the name and you think this is going to be the thing that you want to really build and spend a lot of time developing, it could be worth the cost or the investment to trademark it as well. Every business needs to build a profile as part of launching a business. And by that I mean that, think of it like this, that if at the end of the day, no one can see you or no one can look at proof that your business exists, do they really believe that your business exists? So it starts with a few very, very simple things. And in this day and age, there's a positive aspect to this, but also a negative aspect. And the positive aspect of it is that you can basically do all this stuff for pretty much free. It's really, really cheap to do. If not, in most cases, no cost at all, right? But the other downside of it is that there's a lot of businesses out there these days, and so you do have a lot of competition, right? But things such as the brand, the design, the logo are all really important. It's important to get that consistency across all brand in things such as your socials, your website, your print, your business card, whatever. Make it match, right? Then there's also about the message of the business, the slogan that you have, the tagline that you use, even the 3-word, quicker, better, faster, whatever it might be that relates to your business, so that people understand very quickly, what your business does. So make it crystal clear what you do. And sometimes the best way to test this is to show whatever you're doing in a draft business card or your draft socials page to someone that you don't really know and ask them, what do you think of this? Does this make sense? What do you think my business is all about, right? So it's about building the online and offline profile so that when people actually hear about you or find out about you, they're going to research you, right? Because that's what we do these days. We used to go direct to the yellow pages. We don't do that anymore. We now Google things, or if we know the domain, we go to the domain, we go to your socials, and we figure out what that is from there, right? So it's about proof that the business exists. Again, someone's playing with my presentation here, aren't they? Yep, you've been sprung. Thank you. Give them something to see. If there's nothing to see and nothing for you to talk about, then there's nothing to sell. So a question here that you should ask yourself is, what stands out to you when you look at a business for the first time? What makes you think twice about that business? And the reason that I say this is that the important part about that is that people are going to have exactly the same thought about you. Neil, can I just check that nothing's changed from your perspective of the presentation, because it's flickering on mine. Someone's, I think, accidentally clicking on something.
No, I've got slide 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
No
looks
worries.
good. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
not a problem at all. Thank you. So let's start with where I always suggest with my clients that should theoretically be the start point, and that's the business card, you know. And I often talk to my clients about this because when I advise them on this, I tend to think that the minute you've actually got a business card in your hand, I think that your psychology of your business changes a little bit. It tells you, I'm in business now. I've got a card. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to get this business going. So it can be the start point of everything. So obviously that's a design aspect that's needed. You need a logo probably. You're going to have a message that goes with that. You know, it needs to include the clarity around what you do. But then also about how do they find out more? So your business card has the ability to link to things such as your website and social media, even through things such as QR codes, you know. So what do people see, or what do you want them to see when they see your brand? So think about things like that. Is the logo something that makes your business stand out, that it's unique, or does it tell people exactly what the message behind your business is all about? So for an online profile, there's a number of things that need to be considered. And for every new business, these are all things that you should do as quickly as you possibly can. The first one, obviously, is a website. You know, and again, as I said before, the idea behind this website is that you want to make it as easy as possible to be able to find you. The more complicated the name, the harder it's going to be to search you. And, you know, let's face it, there's a lot of people out there paying for Google AdWords or paying people to do their SEO. So they will always come up before a lot of us unless we're prepared to spend money. But the simple truth of the matter is that there are ways to do that a lot simpler by being clever about the name of the business that then also works in with the landing pages without the website domain name as well. So with that in mind, there are a couple of other solutions that help that along. And one of them is additional landing pages. So someone's just shutting the presentation down. I don't know who did that, but thank you. We'll just get it back up again, all right? So if by some chance you are playing around with something, would you be able to just not do that so we can keep going? Right. Okay, so we'll go back to where we were again. Yeah, look, if you've got your mouse and you're clicking around on the screen, try not to do that because it will change everything. You actually have the ability to change things online here as well. Are we back to normal again, Neil? Just give me a thumbs up. Cool, thank you. Yeah, landing pages are a very, very good option in marketing. A domain name will cost you around about $15. You can simply add a domain name very, very cheaply by coming up with something that revolves around what your business does. I'll give you a little bit of an example. I had a client for a number of years that was one of the large printing franchises, and he was based up at Caboolture, but instead of just having the name of his business as the .com.au domain, he also bought domains such as Brisbane North Signwriting, Caboolture Signwriting, Brisbane North Signwriting, Sunshine Coast Signwriting. He bought them all of them simply pointed back to his website, and he got an enormous amount of business out of it too. Just as a bit of an aside with that one as well, with the domain name, I've got a client, and I'll change the name so to protect the innocent here, but he's a handyman. And when he first started his business, he was based up at Noosa, and his business had a particular name. I can't even remember what it was now, but it struggled. And a mate of his suggested to him to do one little simple change, and that was to change his name into what people search for. So he changed his name to noosahandyman.com.au, and now he can't keep up with the work. It's a really, really common answer to a very, very simple problem. And every time I've dealt with people in regards to trying to get their business or their page up to #1, the simple answer is add something like an additional landing page or change the name of your business. We then go to something like social media, and look, you know, we all need to have, whether you like it or not these days, and I certainly have a number of clients that actually fight this to a certain degree, but you need to have a social media presence, Facebook, Instagram, probably at the very least these days. If you're in business like we all are, you need to have a LinkedIn presence. It doesn't have to be brilliant, but at least needs to have something. And LinkedIn also then gives you the ability to connect with people really, really easily through a number of the things that you do. But From a Facebook and Instagram point of view, the way that this works these days, and it changes constantly with our mates at Instagram and Facebook with their ongoing algorithm changes, but the general rule of thumb these days is that you need to be posting at least 4 to 5 times a week. The general is once a day, and we have a lot of clients, I do, that are already posting 3 times a day to keep up with it. And the reason behind that is that there's so much stuff on social media that in order to break through it, you've just got to be doing it more often. And the reason behind that is that the reach with social media is actually as low as 2%. So if you've got 100 people that are following you, around about 2%, 2 of them will actually see your posts, right? So the idea behind this is that you build a content planner and you just either post daily or you pre-plan all your posts so it happens by itself. And it's very simple to do that. It's not complicated. There's a little bit of tip here. Have your phone set up with a separate folder so that you can put all your business related images in that folder so that you can post on the go using your mobile phone. Podcasts, YouTube are also an effective way of marketing these days. Again, it's simply about the profile. Where are people going to look for you? What are they seeing? Your video is very, very popular these days. You'll tend to get more reach with video than just a static image. And because of the fact that most of the videos are being stored on YouTube, you simply set up a YouTube channel and they then get drawn out of YouTube, right? So it's a pretty simple way of doing that. Blogging is also another really important aspect of a business. And look, you're probably going to blog something maybe once a month, and add that to your website. But the important part about that is about building the database. So getting people to opt into a database through something like maybe MailChimp, but it's also about controlling your data better, because marketing through an email database to your existing clients will have an open rate of the emails of something between 35 and 50%, which is about as good as you'll ever get compared to about 2% on social media. So an email, a newsletter is a great way of keeping in touch and continuing that follow-up. I think I mentioned this very briefly yesterday. With your websites, absolutely business these days, do the Google My Business thing. It's a must to be seen on any Google search engine these days. Takes about 5 or 10 minutes to do. You just simply type in Google My Business in Google, and then it will come up with a series of questions. You start inputting the information about your business and your phone number and what you do, and eventually you'll get a notification that you've been approved or whatever. So where's the first people most people will go to? So the question you want to ask yourself is that if people are going to be researching your business on social media or on website or whatever, you need to be in that area for them to be seen. And the most frustrating thing for a lot of people is that if they go to a social media page and they find your page, but you haven't updated anything for 2 months, then they start to think, are you really active in your business or not? So you need to be able to do that and update it regularly. It's not a big deal. I mean, as I said, worst case scenario, update social media 3 to 5 times a day, but have all of this stuff digitally set up. So at least when you're talking to someone, they can actually go and see. You can show them stuff. You can show them your website, social media pages. You've got information there. So from there, we go to the offline profile. And, a really important thing to think about at the moment is that you can't do it with social media alone. Even if you have a conversation with social media experts, a Facebook guy, they'll tell you you can't do it just with Facebook. You need to have multiple angles to it. Generally at least 3, meaning digital, some form of brand advertising somewhere, and maybe networking or something else. And we'll talk about those lead generation options later, right? So it's important to, I guess, take advantage of offline marketing as well. And if you've got a shop front, then that's easy. You have signs and you've got branding. You might have a car sign, you might have pull-up banners, and your staff might also have uniforms, right? It also means things such as local area marketing. It could be sponsoring the local football team. Now, it's also not even necessarily a matter of spending money to do this. In a number of my previous businesses, we used Contra to do it. So we got them things or did things for them, and we didn't pay cash to do any of the sponsorship. So look for opportunities to do that. Local PR, really, really important here. I know with, especially up here where I am on the Sunshine Coast, and I know this is just about everywhere these days, local media like news, radio, even TV are interested in local business news stories, especially with the way we've had our economy lately. We're all focusing on local business, so they're open to looking at things. I mean, you've got to make it easy for them. You've got to write the PR release for them. You've got to be able to give it to them, but then have all that information for them so they can use it, right? And then be ready. So it's simply a matter of talking to people and offering it to them. They may at some point try and talk you into advertising, but hey, it might be worthwhile doing it. Then, of course, you've got print advertising, as I said, local media there. But also look at things such as brochures, flyers, and as we've already mentioned, business cards. You know, people, even though we're in a digital world, people still like to have things in their hand. And especially when you're talking to people, a brochure is something people like to look at, open up and read, right? From the point of view of, I guess, almost a shop front, things such as business expos are worthwhile, and there's always business expos all over the place. Industry, particular marketing events, and of course markets. So a lot of my clients that have, you know, small home-based businesses are displaying and selling their wares at markets. But when you're doing this, then look at opportunities to maximize branding so that you stand out at those markets, so that people can connect with you, know where to find you on social media, know how to connect through a QR code, maybe through you know, clicking on a QR code, and they end up at on your email database. Things like giveaways, caps, pens always work. Fridge magnets have come back into fashion again, by the way. A lot of people, especially tradies, are using fridge magnets as a way of, you know, you've done a job, instead of handing out a couple of cards, give them a couple of fridge magnets. They aren't that expensive, actually, these days. They've come down in price, and people will actually put them on their fridges. So, you know, somebody else comes over, a friend, they see, you know, the work that's been done. Who did that? Oh, take a fridge magnet with you. So they actually do work. The other option with fridge magnets, also with your car, is that you can get bigger magnets done and use that as a way of telling people while you're driving around what you do. Ideally, if you've got a business that you're really building, if you get your car wrapped or some decent signs on there, the idea behind that is that it could be one of the most effective methods of marketing around. And I went to a marketing workshop about a year ago, and the guest speaker was a guy from a local, very large advertising company, and one of their sides of their business was bus marketing. And he said bus marketing, meaning the buses that are branded, is one of the most underrated tools around, because when you're in traffic stuck at the lights, you can't actually change the channel. So you have no option but to look at the bus and actually read what it says. So it actually has some value, okay? So car branding, create awareness so people know that you exist, and the simple things such as QR codes, and of course networking and connecting with people are all really important things that all businesses must do at some point. Another tip is to research your competition, right? The idea is to stand out. So what you want to know is what's unique about you and your business. How do you compare to others? Why would someone buy from you or your competition, or not buy from you and go to your competition, right? So understand what that why is, what that unique point of difference is. So research your competition, but also look at other businesses as well. What do some of those businesses do that your business maybe could do? You know, research their website, look at their social media, and in particular, look at their hashtags. One of the really great tips I learned only just recently was that, you know, if you're looking at, for example, Instagram, wanting to know what hashtags to use, because that is how Instagram is used, go to one of your really successful competitors and look at what hashtags they use and copy them. Basically do a copy and paste on them. So what do your competitors do that you could do better than what they're currently doing right now? Researching competitors is a really, really important part of building a business. So with that in mind, what's the gap that you fill? And this is a part, we actually talk about this in the business plan. You know, what's the thing that you do that your competitors don't right now? What's the untapped, you know, niche or the gap in the market right now? What's the unique message with your business? What do you do that no one else does? You know, find out why it is that someone would buy from you. You know, what's your unique selling proposition? Now, with that in mind, and I know we touched on this the other day, eliminate a couple of things. Eliminate things such as customer service, because a lot of people say we give great customer service. Don't use that term, because everyone thinks they give great service and they don't. And then don't also use price. You don't want to be the cheapest around. You don't want to be known as that. So with that in mind, identify what that unique thing is that you do so that you can tell people about it once you've figured out what that thing is. And so once you know what that thing is, the next thing to do is that you need to develop an elevator pitch. And an elevator pitch, you know, sounds, I guess, a little bit of American-y, salesy type, but it's not. It's actually a very, very good activity to develop. And what that also does, it actually gives you clarity in how you tell somebody else about your business quickly, because I've done my share of networking events over the last few years, or a number of years, and you end up talking to someone and you go, obviously, hey, so what do you do? And they go into this long-winded thing for the next 5 or 10 minutes about telling your business. At the end of it, you end up going, what did you just say then? What do you actually do? So you want to develop that for a number of reasons, because once you develop your elevator pitch, that can then be used in things such as the About section on your website. It can be used on your social media. It can be used on the business card in a number of ways. So the way that you do that, obviously, from developing the elevator pitch, is that you need to get that message across easily in both print, web, and in person. And as an elevator pitch says, it's designed to be done in 30 seconds. So how long it takes to go between a couple of floors if you're telling somebody about you. So the way that that works is fundamentally in 5 steps. The first part is to introduce yourself, obviously. The second part is to talk about the problem that you solve, right? So it's not about what your business does. It's not about the features, advantages, and benefits. It's about, here's the thing we found out. This is the problem we discovered that most people have in relation to this particular thing, right? Identify what that problem is, and then talk about the solution. So what's your solution? How do you fix that particular problem for that particular client, right? Most businesses don't talk about this. Most businesses talk about the features of it and the advantages of it. What you want to talk, and once again, this is really old marketing speak, you know, FAB, it's about talking about the benefits of what your product does, the sizzle, not the sausage so much, right? So what's your solution? Then lastly, you can talk about the offer of what you do for people and how they can take advantage of things. And the next part about it is how they contact you. So when you look a bit further about that, what you can do then is you can have it fairly long. It could be a minute elevator pitch initially, right? Or it could be 5 minutes. And that could be your about page. So as a result of that, once you start thinning it, you need to come up with a line for each of those 5 parts, right? So you have a message. You could also have a slogan. You could have a tagline, but also have what I refer to as a 3-word. I don't quite know what the right term of it is, but those 3 words can be things such as better, faster, easier, you know, print, design, website, you know, in regard to, that's what Snap Printing use, I think it is. So those 3 things can tell somebody what you do pretty quickly, right? So the idea behind that is that you might use those 3 simple things on your business card. You might use the message or the slogan or the tagline on your business card. So it helps to develop all of that, ideally before you get to print. But, you know, I'll talk a little bit about how we talk about print down the stage and how really inexpensive it is anyway, right?
Irving, can I just jump on your last point there about the, obviously you said the slogan tagline.
Yep.
I'm going to share something with everyone. I'll share a link to a video, and I was, well, lucky or unlucky enough, depending on what way you want to viewpoint you take. If you've seen the film Wolf of Wall Street, and the guy there, what's his name, Jordan Belfort? Yeah,
the original guy, yeah.
Yeah, I got invited to one of his seminars when I was working overseas. Anyway, so he's a crook, he's a villain, and he's trying to pay off.
But he's an honest crook, though.
It's, well, see, exactly. But anyway, the point is, he he drummed it into his people, and I've seen some psychology on this about the importance of that first 4 seconds in any customer or sales interactions. So whatever you convey within those microseconds, and it, as Erwin's got there, there's the 3 words or whatever, how it looks, feels, does it convey confidence? Do you come across as authentic? Is it trusting, genuine? All of those sorts of things. People form an impression immediately. So those of you who can see us on screen, you probably looked at me and Erwin and formed a 4-second impression. So, and we all do it, you know. But it's just worth bearing some of that in mind in whatever you do, to even the way you interact with your customers online, in person, etc., etc. But that, getting that across, and try not to overthink it, of course, because it's dangerous to do that. But always think about what's the first impression you're creating, and how does that make it easy for that customer, client, person to interact with you. I'll share a link and have a bit of fun watching the video as well.
Did you say that Belfort, how many seconds did he say you had?
4 seconds.
4 seconds. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I know. I didn't actually think it was that low, because the number I've always had in regard to almost everything is 7 seconds in regards to, if your message on your socials, if your website, you've got 7 seconds before someone scrolls away and goes to the next website. So yeah, great point, Neil. Thank you. And thanks to Jordan Belfort as well. So one of the things that I think is really important to consider also is that business is a numbers game. You know, not everyone's ever going to say yes to you. So you have to have a process through your business of being able to get as many leads that you possibly can, so that your business continues to grow. So it's fundamentally a funnel type system, but we also refer to them as the way that we do this is through lead funnels, magnets, and also lead sources, right? So as I said there, have at least 10 sources of leads, and they can be things such as online, offline, networking, cold calling, email marketing, markets, etc. But try to develop 10 in case something falls over. And I know that a couple of years back, there was a time when Facebook shut down for 2 days, and all the people that relied solely on Facebook were absolutely sweating bullets, thinking their business was all over. Also look at using a lead magnet. And a lead magnet is simply something that you can sit somewhere, probably on your website or on your socials, that is an offer, like a free report on the 10 ways to do blah, 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 or a webinar offer to, hear the 10 ideas on how to live better or whatever it might be, or lose weight or whatever. But you need something that draws them in, that they can then opt into, because once you then have someone that is interested as a lead, they then become a genuine prospect. And then the next part is turning them into a customer, or is actually go from, I guess, awareness, or creating that awareness first, to getting someone that's actually reasonably interested, and then going through that conversion process down the track even further, right? Then the idea is simply to keep in touch and follow up. And sometimes it actually is that simple, that once you've connected with someone and they've shown interest in something, it's often just a matter of actually going back and talking to them, and eventually they're going to buy. And I remember in one of my businesses that a lot of my salespeople in the early days would go and see someone do a presentation and never go back again. And then some other salesperson would go back about 2 or 3 years later, and that person would actually go, look, I've been waiting for you guys to come back so I could actually do what I needed to do. And it was, they'll never ring, but if you ask them, they'll come in. It's also a lot of things in lead generation is also about testing and measuring things. Where do you get the leads from? Is it from social media? Is it from offering a lead magnet? Once you know what works, then it simply is a matter of doing more and scaling it, but doing it better, fine-tuning it. And sort of as Neil said yesterday, which I think was great, is that, you need to find out what is the easiest way to get a customer. If you can figure that out and just continue to improve that process, then, you're building a machine with your business. Not everyone's going to say yes. It is a numbers game, and a lot of people hate that term. But believe me, it's fact. You can't avoid it. Not everyone's going to say yes. Once you know what that conversion ratio or that conversion number is, you're in control of your business. The simple thing that I've done, and I'm going to send this with my email tomorrow when I send the video link out and everything else out again, is I've developed a business checklist to launch for our clients. So it simply has everything down here that we're talking about here today, and it's a guide. You know, you don't have to do everything from day one, but the idea is to get as much done as you possibly can, because the more visible you are out there in the marketplace, the easier it's going to be for people to see you, find you, hear you, and prove that your business actually exists. So it's really, really important. It's about maximizing opportunities. And by the way, you know, I know it can take months to build a website, because I've got clients that have taken months to build a website, but it can also be done in about 20 minutes, and I've also done it in 20 minutes. So it doesn't take a long time. The same with social media, the same with designing a simple flyer or a brochure. It doesn't take time, a long time to do it. The idea, I believe, is that you want to get draft one of everything done and build your socials, your website, your print, your business card. And then if you're not happy with it, update it. You know, that is not a real problem to do that. You can even change your name. It's not that big a deal. So develop the brand, the online, the offline, and start looking at ways of promoting the business, and just work your way through a checklist. So as I said, I'll send this out to everyone anyway. Here's a couple of great resources that I think are worth looking at. A lot of people are going to know these things, but I just thought I'd go through them. Canva is a brilliant tool that can design just about anything for you. And if you're looking, if your business is starting up on a budget, this is the best way to do it, because you will be able to design a business card for free. If you then want to get the business cards printed, they have an online printing service that Canva is also an Australian company, so they use Australian printers. So it will get printed through things like Snap, or also Officeworks, they do it. But again, I've tested it to make sure it works. For $27, you'll get 100 business cards printed, and they'll be delivered to your door in 10 days. It's sensational, absolutely great. But they do everything. You can do all your social media, images, you can do flyers, brochures. I've got a couple of clients that have built multiple page booklets, and it works really, really well. Evernote is a cloud-based syncable notepad. I've been using it for, I think, about 15 years now. I pay a small fee to use it because it syncs over about multiple different devices. But if you have a phone, a computer, and use maybe a tablet for 3 devices, it's totally free. It is a brilliant tool. It's searchable, set up different notes. And the great thing with things like this, in conjunction with having a folder with all your images in, if you have Evernote on your phone and you write your content for your posts on there, you'll never need to go and take a resource from something else. If you're looking for a way to build a website for free, the easiest way to do it is through a site called Wix. Wix can also charge you as well, but if you build the free Wix site, you've got a fully functioning website. The easiest way to control it then is to go and get your domain of something like one of the other sites. I use GoDaddy, and it works pretty well for me. And you simply point that domain back to Wix. You now have a free website and using your own domain. If you do it through Wix, which is perfectly okay to do, they will charge you for using your domain, but there's a way around it. As I said yesterday, for content inspiration, Answer the Public, for keyword ideas, Ubersuggest. I also use a thing called Jotform. It's free for up to 5 surveys, and I use this in particular for collecting data from clients. It's great for surveying customers or clients as well. And as I said, it's free, and you just keep on adding to it. There's another one called SurveyMonkey, but it's got a bit of there's one issue I don't like with it, that once somebody has done something once on the survey, they can't do it again. Whereas Jotform, you can do it multiple times. That just tends to work for me. I use it with my clients. MailChimp is a free e-newsletter service. It has a number of other things as well. But the beautiful part about it is it has an automated opt-in and opt-out system. Now, one of the things you really need to be aware of, that in Australia, we have some of the nastiest spam laws in the world. So if by some chance you don't have a client that hasn't opted in to it, and you send them an email, they can actually report you to the spamming ASIC or something like that, whatever the organisation is. It can get very ugly and get very expensive. So the simple solution is, if you have an opt-in and an automated opt-out, then you're safe. There's this thing called Cam Card. I use it all the time. Every time someone gives me a business card, I used to collect drawers and folders full of business cards. I don't keep them now. Someone gives me a card, I scan the thing via Cam Card. It adds it into my Outlook and address book automatically. It's absolutely brilliant. It obviously has technology in to read the email addresses, phone number, names, business name, all that sort of stuff, and puts it straight in there, and it's free. I use this very simple little tool called Adobe Scan. I have a scanner on one of my printers, but if I'm out and about, I want to scan something and turn it into a PDF. You just take a picture like you do, it scans it and converts it to PDF, so it's a much easier way to doing scanning rather than using a real scanner. I use Google Drive as my cloud storage. There's a number of things that do that, Box, and there's a Dropbox as well, but Google is easy, connects with everything else that you do with Google as well, including YouTube. But again, it's free, and it means then that you've got a way of accessing documents everywhere when you're out and about, away, traveling, whatever. If you're looking for free images to use in social media content on your website, there's a number of them, but Unsplash, I think it's unsplash.com, is probably the only one that they are free to use with all of them. So you can then simply go on there, search whatever image you want and download it and use it. I mean, I don't know how they do it, but probably paid for through advertising through the actual website itself. But you also need to be fairly careful with that, because if you end up using an image that you haven't paid for, obviously you could be chased for it. So use something like Unsplash, they're free. And the last one I've got on there is qrstuff.com. We're very used to using QR codes these days. They're great for putting on things like business cards or on flyers or on posters or on pull-up banners. Again, it's a free site. You simply put in what it is you want to send people to, whether it's social media or opt-in on a website or your actual website itself. There's about 20 different options. You then download the QR code. You can download it whatever color you want. And then just add that QR code to wherever you need to add it to. It's really, really simple. A great tool. So just, I guess, in summing up or ending our little presentation here, it's gone a little bit longer than I thought you would. There's really no secret to marketing or launching a business. A lot of stuff is common sense. The really simple answer with a lot of it is do everything, and do as much as you possibly can, and take advantage of maximizing opportunities, not minimizing opportunities. So the thing here, I guess, is that the more you have to see, the better. If you don't have anything and someone wants to know about your business, but they can't find anything, they're not going to buy from you. Make it as easy as possible to find you, and the easier it is, the better it is. Think about traffic, but also think about conversion, right? It's about, if the idea is to get people to your website to buy or to book, or to get them to your Shopify site, or to download something from your website, think about the process of how that is done. So if you've got analytics in the back end of something, then look at that analytics and figure out how that works and how you can improve it. I was talking to one of my clients in a call today. She was about to go down the track of spending money on Google AdWords because she didn't think she was getting enough out of her website. And I said, how many visits do you have? What's the traffic going to your website? And she said, it's around about 230 a month. And I said, look, those numbers aren't too bad considering how many do you convert? And she was saying, oh, look, 1 or 2. So the answer here is not about the numbers going to the website. It's about how do you convert more? How do you collect the data? She didn't have an opt-in at the top of her website, which meant that people were probably going and leaving. So I've asked her to do an opt-in so that it goes to an e-news database so she can start to email them regularly and then build up a relationship, and then hopefully at some point get to ask them to come along to something or buy or whatever it might be. So it's about traffic and conversion. There's a number of viewpoints on the numbers of likes and followers. And the interesting thing about that is that likes and followers isn't the answer alone. It needs more than that. But common sense tells me that if I've got 10,000 followers over 125, I'm going to get a better result. And when you talk to clients, or when I've talked to clients these days about where a lot of their leads or their sales are coming from, often it's from things such as Instagram or Facebook. So if you know it's working and you've got an X number of people there, I guess common sense would tell you that if you had more, then you're going to get a better result out of it. Not always, but it's got to have a benefit, right? So that the idea behind that is it's the objective of social media is not just to post for the sake of posting. It's about building the following, creating awareness. It's a branding tool, and it's about sending traffic at some point back to your website or wherever you're going to be making sales from, right? So that's pretty much about it, and that finishes now with any questions. So, Neil, have we got any questions?